Welcome to There is a Method to the Madness. My name is Rob Maxwell, and I'm an exercise physiologist and personal trainer. I'm the owner of Maxwell's Fitness Programs, and I've been in business since 1994. That is 28 years. That's a long time ago. Today's podcast, I'm going to talk about effective and safe pre-workout type of drinks. All right. Before I get to that, let me thank our very first sponsors. I say our first sponsors because they literally were our first sponsor. Jonathan and Lyn Gildon at the Gildon Group at Realty Pros. Jonathan heard me speak at a book function where I was signing books for my first book, and we got to talking, and he became a client. He really liked what I had to say, and I got to know him professionally, and we said, hey, this is a win-win. So I'm really thankful for that because I believe in really, really good service. I am such a proponent of good service. I will pay more money anywhere if I have good service, and they are great at what they do. It's so important to have good service for your real estate agents. I think we all know that. I say that a lot. I'm assuming everybody else has maybe gone down the road of having an agent that wasn't really working for you. So, I take that kind of personal, and so now I'm very, very, very picky, and they're great. So please give them a shout, Jonathan and Lyn Gildon at the Gildon Group at Realty Pros, and I will put all their information in the show notes. All right, so pre-workouts got really popular around 10 years ago. In the old days, a pre-workout used to be nothing, or maybe you were drinking a cup of coffee on the way to the gym. Maybe you thought Gatorade was good. That was all old school pre-workouts. And believe it or not, the coffee actually did some good and the Gatorade didn't. But now there is a entire line of pre-workouts, and some are good and some are not so good. And the idea behind them is to, one, get your central nervous system a little bit woken up and ready, and I'll get into that in a second. And then some pre-workouts have like alkaline type substances in them to help you buffer some of the lactic acid. So that's kind of what a pre-workout is. It actually gets into your system prior to working out, just before working out, and it gets you a little bit stimulated, and it provides some good micronutrients, which are vitamins and minerals, to help sustain your workouts and help you stay focused. So when done right, when done with a nice, natural, good substance, they can be beneficial, and I'll use one for sure. When done wrong, and the only way to really go wrong, so I don't want you super paranoid and out there and like thinking all pre-workouts are bad. It's very simple. Look at the caffeine amount in your pre-workout, and that may not even be bad for some people. But a lot of pre-workouts have up to 300 milligrams of caffeine in them. That's the equivalent of 3 to 4 cups of coffee. That's a lot. If you're somebody who's prone to being a little bit nervous, you get the jitters, or you're hypertensive and you're on hypertensive medication, or you're just hypertensive in general, the last thing you want to be doing is taking a huge shot of caffeine in such a big dosage at one time. It'll really spike your heart rate, and it's just not a good idea. Essentially, it's like taking speed. So we want to watch how much caffeine is in our pre-workout. Now, some of the kids are getting those monster drinks and things like that are super loaded with caffeine. And as you may or may not know, some of those caffeine substances have been taken off the market because they're so dangerous. Now, I don't want you to freak out about caffeine. There's nothing wrong with caffeine in moderation. As a matter of fact, so as some of you may know, and if you don't, you know now, I'm also a licensed sports nutritionist, so I have studied all of the different micronutrients and all of the different chemicals and things like that. Caffeine prior to a workout, as long as you don't have hypertension and as long as it's not too much where it makes you jittery, is actually a good thing. Studies have shown that caffeine prior to working out will not only liven up your central nervous system, just like a cup of coffee will, it'll actually help you get into burning fat a little bit quicker. So caffeine has been shown to mobilize free fatty acids faster. That's why you'll see so many endurance athletes using coffee, caffeine, or some form of pre-workouts prior to a run, prior to a race. And they also have caffeine in their energy shots that they'll take, their goos along the way, because caffeine actually helps you break down free fatty acids faster than if you didn't have any. And studies show that. And as a matter of fact, caffeine is actually on the banned substance list for Olympic athletes. Yes, can you believe that? If an Olympic athlete of any sport fails a drug test, they're not allowed to say what it is due to HIPAA violations. They can just say, oh, he got popped, he failed a drug test. It could be as simple as caffeine. You are not allowed to have more than the equivalent of a cup of coffee prior to an Olympic event. That is it. So of course, most of them, I would hope all of them, are too smart to even play with it and don't even have any because they don't want to take that risk. So why am I bringing that up? Because, caffeine is illegal and banned? No, to show you what a good ergogenic aid it actually is. It is an aid to performance, a legal, natural aid to performance. But like anything, and taken in too much quantity, along with some of the other unnatural properties, some of the more, I don't want to say fancy, but some of the sports drinks that are more kind of geared towards the kids who want to get that caffeine buzz and all that, they're the ones you want to watch prior to working out. Because again, if you have hypertension, if you get jittery from too much caffeine, it'll spike your heart rate and make you feel a little bit weird. So when you're seeking out your good pre-workout, number one, make sure it sits well in your stomach. Don't just try something because you hear other people are doing it. Do your research and figure out if it's something that you want to do. Me personally, I like the thought of waking up a little bit more, getting some hydration in my system before I go, and I usually drink a water bottle full as I'm warming up. That's what I like to do. I make sure that I use, again, all natural, safe products. I make sure that the most risky, and I say that in quotations, product in it is caffeine. I make sure that there's none of these other ephedras and things like that in any form of pre-workout. You want to keep it to definitely under, say, 150, 160 milligrams of caffeine. That's a still decent amount of caffeine. If it's more than that, and again, the standard is like 300 milligrams, that's a lot. You probably don't need that much. So you want to keep it to around there, and you want to make sure that it's got all of the other micronutrients, such as your B vitamins, your A vitamins, and your minerals. And then it can absolutely be a nice little aid that can help you out. It tastes good, hopefully. You get a little bit of a caffeine shot in there. And again, if there's some of the beta-alanine, which buffers some of the lactic acid, and lactic acid is a byproduct of anaerobic metabolism. It's the burn that you feel is that lactic acid. So if it helps buffer some of that, then it can help you recover a little bit. So just make sure that what you're taking works and it's nice, it's good, it's natural, it's got just enough caffeine in it. Again, a little bit under, say, 150 milligrams of caffeine. Make sure that you have tried it, make sure that you like it, and make sure you talk with a certified personal trainer, a licensed exercise physiologist, a licensed sports nutritionist. Don't just go to the 7-Eleven, and yes, they sell those things, and buy some. And mostly I'm talking to you parents in regards to your kids. I don't want to freak you out because, again, that, most of the time when problems arise, it's because somebody has a pre-existing condition like hypertension or whatever, and you probably know those things. But still, as parents, want to make sure that our kids are taking something that is safe and not loaded with chemicals that aren't going to be good for them. So, get it from somebody who knows what they're doing to make a good recommendation for you. And so I keep throwing around micronutrients. I just want to explain. Macronutrients are protein, carbs, fat, and water. Typically, these types of supplements are more micronutrients, which are all of your water-soluble vitamins, your oil-soluble vitamins, and then minerals. That is typically what we're talking about here. A different kind of, say, pre-workout might be an energy drink that's loaded more with carbohydrates and sugar, which has a purpose. If you're going out on a long bike ride, a long run, or something like that, you're going to need those types of fuel to propel you further. And of course, you're going to need some water and electrolytes. That's fine. That's great. And protein with some carbohydrates is a good post-workout drink. What I'm talking about are more the pre-workouts with the micronutrients in them and the caffeine to kind of get your central nervous system primed and to get what's the available help in your bloodstream, because that's what vitamins and minerals do. They're like that available helping nutrients. That's what they do. They work with your macronutrients. So you want to make sure, again, that what you're using is safe, what you're using doesn't have too much caffeine in it, and what you're using also tastes good. You want to experiment with different flavors, because I know from experience that if something doesn't taste good, it's going to upset my stomach. So I know that sounds like it's probably common sense, but you want to make sure that you have tried different flavors. Personally, I love like grape flavors. I love peach flavors. Typically, I love lemon lime. Sometimes I've not liked lemon so much, but you gotta sample with those things, okay? So I hope this kind of clears things up for you. I kept giving the amount of caffeine. Hopefully that stands out in your mind when you're looking for these things. Look at the label. Anything that is sold has to have a label on the back. If it doesn't have a label, don't buy it. Look at the ingredients yourself. See what it has in it. Always inspect ingredients whenever you utilize anything. All right. So now I want to thank our second sponsor. I say second because she is our current second sponsor. I had another sponsor before, and they're great and everything, but I want anybody that sponsors the show, number one, to really be an advocate of health and fitness. And chiropractic physician Doris Antos absolutely is. She works out. She works in the industry. She's part of our sports medicine family, so to say. Chiropractic physicians do great work in recovery, great work in prehab. And she is up in Ormond Beach. I vouch for her. We always refer to her and give her a shout as well. And all of her information will be in the show notes. All right? So until next time, be max fit and be max well.